My name is Avigdor Bonchek. I will be giving a 4-part series on Rashi's Torah commentary. A few words about Rashi himself. Rashi is actually an acronym. Resh Shin Yud stands for Rabbi Shlomo Yitzchaki. His father's name was Yitzchak. Rashi's first name was Shlomo, Reb Shlomo Yitzchaki, the son of Yitzchak. Rashi lived in northern France. He was born in 1040. He died in 1105, 65 years old. During that time, he produced a commentary on the Chumash, most of Tanakh, and most of the Gemara as well. As I said, we will focus in on Rashi's commentary on the Chumash. Before we start with Rashi himself, it's important that you have certain books available to you. A Chumash was an English translation. The most popular Chumash is Art Scrolls Chumash. Must have sold over 1 million in the States, and these Chumashim. If you get a hold of it, it has Rashi in Hebrew, not in English, but it has the Chumash translated into English. It's good to have available when we have our classes. The second book that you need is Rashi itself. There are several translations of Rashi. Excuse me a moment. There are several translations of Rashi. One less popular is the Metzudah Chumash Rashi, put out in New Jersey. It's the best for our purpose, but the most famous Rashi in English is the Art Scroll Rashi. That's available in most bookstores. The Metzudah would be best for our use, but it may not be so available in bookstores. That is, these you need for the classes that I will be giving. Rashi's commentary, we will center on Rashi's Torah commentary, as I said, and our goal will be to understand Rashi's commentary in depth, not just what Rashi says. Commentary in depth, for me, means the following 3 levels. Level 1, what does he say? He wrote in Hebrew. Can we translate into our language, English? What did he say? 2, why did he see the need to say it? And 3, what is evidence that his interpretation is correct? We can't always get to point 3, but point 2 we must get. What's the purpose of his commentary? We will see, I hope, as we go along, that Rashi doesn't just comment. Rashi comments when he thinks there's a purpose and a need to comment. Rashi's commentary is comprised of 2 types of comments, Drash and Pshat. Drash is based on Medrash, and Pshat is the reasonable interpretation of the words of the Chumash. Rashi was a turning point. Rashi's commentary was a turning point in Torah commentary. Until Rashi's time, most commentary was based on Drash. From Rashi's time onward, certainly Rashi's students and his grandchildren, who were the Balei Tosfot, by the way. Many of the Balei Tosfot, which you'll find in the Gemara, were Rashi's grandchildren. We'll discuss that in one of our class lessons. Until Rashi's time, most commentary was Drash, like the Midrashim. Rashi shifted the emphasis from Drash to Pshat, but this was an evolving development. By that I mean that Rashi's children were more Pshat-oriented than Rashi himself. But Rashi was more Pshat-oriented than those who came before him. What's the difference between Pshat and Drash? Let me give you an example, which you'll find in the Chumash, in Shmos, in the beginning of the second chapter of Shmos, it says when Yocheved, Moshe's mother, gave birth to him, Vatirehu Kitov, and she saw that he was good, and she hid him for 3 months. Rashi says that he was good. Rashi says the room was filled with light. It's a sign that something special about this baby, this child. But this is drash, certainly not pshat, because the verse has no mention of light at all. It is assumed by the Medrash that there was light in the room when he was born. Since it is so unusual that a room should be filled with light when a baby is born, it probably never happened in history except in Moshe's birth. That's why she thought it was a special child, and she hid him for 3 months, because the Egyptians were out to kill all newborn babies. But since there's no hint in the verse about the light in the room, we call this drash. What would pshat be? Rashi doesn't give us pshat, but his students do. You'll see that the pshat here is reasonable, logical. When a baby is a day old, how can you say he's a good baby? He doesn't say Lashon Hora. He doesn't say anything because he can't speak, obviously. He doesn't hit his brothers because all of his brothers are older than him if he's just newborn. What does it mean a baby is good? Ask any father who comes back from the hospital after his wife gave birth. He's a good baby. That has one meaning generally throughout history. It means he doesn't cry. He's a calm baby who sleeps through the night and doesn't cry a lot. Some kids are more agitated. Some are less. Go to any hospital. You'll find that to be true in the wards of the newborn children. Now, if you look at the verse, we see what pshat is. And she saw that he was good, meaning he didn't cry, and she hid him for 3 months. She could hide him because he wouldn't cry, wouldn't give away his hiding place. Because he was a good baby, it enabled her, it made hiding him a realistic approach. By the way, just to add this is the same posuk, and she saw he was good, the second part, and she hid him for 3 months. Usually we assume that the first part of the verse has some connection to the second part of the verse, otherwise it would be 2 different verses. Here the connection is cause and effect. Because she saw he was good and he didn't cry, she could hide him for 3 months. So that's a pshat interpretation. Rashi himself did not choose that, even though he favors pshat frequently. But he chose the drash interpretation. It has been analyzed that about 70% of Rashi's Torah commentary is drash. It's either sourced in a medrash or it's of the type of a drash. And only about 30% is pshat. Nevertheless, there was still a radical change from all the commentaries before Rashi, which was nearly 100% drash. I want to point out 2 types of Rashi comments, which has not been pointed out in the literature before. Most Rashi comments are there to answer an unasked question. Rashi rarely asks the question that he answers. He assumes that the student who's learning the Chumash asked it himself, so Rashi doesn't ask it. But when he has a comment, our job is to understand what question is he answering. Again, I repeat, and I'll repeat many times, Rashi does not just comment. Rashi comments because he saw a need to comment, and that need was an unasked question. Our job is to figure out what that question was. Let me give an example of that. You'll find it in Bamidbar, chapter 14, sentence 20. After the spies gave their depressing report to Moshe, Hashem was angry with the negative report about Eretz Yisrael, and he said, I'm going to destroy this people, and I'll leave Moshe, I'll leave you be the forebearer of the rest of Am Yisrael. Moshe, as usual, even though he would have been saved, pleaded on behalf of Am Yisrael that God should relent and not punish him. Afterwards, Hashem says, Salachti kidvarecha. I was solech. I forgave them as you said. And then the Chumash says, God says, all this people, all this generation is going to die. And nobody's going to, none of them will come into Eretz Yisrael. What happened? Only Yeshua and Kaleb ben Yefuna from all the 600,000 men lived to 40 years and came into Eretz Yisrael. So God did punish them. So what does it mean, Salachti kidvarecha? When God says the next verse, they will die out. What had Moshe said? Moshe said, what was Moshe's convincing point to Hashem? If you kill the people out, the Goyim will say you were strong enough to bring them out of Egypt, but you were not a strong enough God to bring them into Eretz Yisrael. So it'll be bad for the reputation of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That was Moshe's arguing point. So our question is, in the Chumash, how could you say Salachti kidvarecha? Because the next verse says that God says they'll all die out. That doesn't sound like he forgave anybody. But if we think about it, we understand what Rashi is saying. Salachti kidvarecha, I forgave them as your word. And what did you say, Moshe? You said, I can't kill them out because the Goyim will say I didn't have strength to bring them to Eretz Yisrael. Okay, I will kill them out, but the next generation will come into Eretz Yisrael. So nobody could say I didn't have the koach to bring them in. On the one hand, I will punish those who deserve punishment. On the other hand, I will bring Am Yisrael into Eretz Yisrael, which of course happened, as we know, in the time of Yeshua, and in our own time as well. So Rashi's comment, Salachti kidvarecha, of what you said, that God is incapable, that was Rashi's comment. God is incapable. So you'll see, God is capable, nevertheless I can punish them. Let's go a little further. That was an example of what I call type 1 Rashi. Type 1 Rashi is most Rashis, and it means there's a question that has not been explicitly stated, which this comment answers. As I said, as Moshe's about Salachti kidvarecha, the question was, how can you call it slicha, forgiveness, when on the other hand you promise to kill them? That doesn't sound like forgiveness. And Rashi says, as you said, I can't bring him into Eretz Yisrael. That's what Rashi adds to explain the question. I can bring Am Yisrael into Eretz Yisrael, but this nation will die. There's another type of question, comment. It's called a type 2 comment. A type 2 comment you can find in Bereshis chapter 30, sentence 35. There it's talk about Yaakov and Lavan, and Yaakov told his father-in-law that he wanted him to separate the sheep into colors. Some of the sheep will belong to Yaakov, and some will belong to Lavan. So Yaakov wouldn't have to feel his father-in-law was supporting him for the rest of his life. The verse says, and he removed on that day the he-goats that were rain-streaked and spotted. On this, Rashi says, and he, Lavan, Rashi has one word, and he removed, he puts the word Lavan between he and removed. He, Lavan, removed. So this Rashi is not answering a question. It's helping us avoid a misunderstanding. We might have thought Yaakov removed the sheep because it was talking about it was Yaakov's suggestion. So Rashi says, no, it was Laban who separated the sheep. The question is, how does Rashi know this? Maybe it was Yaakov. Because if you look at the next verse says, and he set 3 days' journey between himself and Yaakov. The he obviously refers to Laban. Yaakov couldn't have 3 days separating between himself and himself. So it must refer to Laban. So the next verse refers to Laban with the he as a pronoun, going back to the previous verse. So when it said, and he separated, that must also be Laban. So we see a kind of three-part analysis of Rashi. One, what does Rashi say? Put one word in Laban, that's not hard to understand. Two, what misunderstanding does he help us overcome? It was Laban and not Yaakov. Three, how do we know Rashi's right? Because when we read the comment in its context, we see that it's right. So what we've done so far is, one, defined, according to my terminology, what does in-depth mean? It means understanding Rashi, what he says. Two, why he says it. Three, how do we know he's right? The second thing we've done is pointed out two types of Rashi. One is type 1, I call it type 1, not very inventive term, which is there to answer an unasked question, and type 2, which is there not to deal with the question, but to help us avoid a misunderstanding. Type 2, by the way, has a style. It's always an insertion of Rashi's words within the words of the Chumash, like Laban was inserted in the verse, and he separated. He and Laban separated. This is Rashi's style. Every time it's a type 2 Rashi. I want to end, I want to leave you with a question to think about until the next time we meet. The question is based on chapter 38 in Bereshis, sentence 5. The Pasuk says, and she continued to give birth, and she had a son, and she called his name Shelah, and he was in Ksiv when she gave birth to him. He, meaning her husband, was in Ksiv. Rashi says, and he was in Ksiv. This is the name of the place, period. It's called Ksiv, Rashi continues, because she stopped giving birth here. This was her last child. And Ksiv means to dry up, as it says in Yirmiyahu chapter 18 and Yeshaya chapter 45. She dried up, so to speak, from fertility. Says Rashi, for if that is not its meaning, what do these words come to teach us? So Rashi is saying, if a name of a place is mentioned, it must be there to teach me a deeper meaning. But if we took a look at Rashi further on, and not further on, before chapter 37, Pasuk 17, Yosef was looking for his brothers. Yaakov sent him to look for the brothers, and he met a man, and he asked this man, have you seen my brothers? And the man says, 37:17, they traveled from here, I heard them say, we're going to Dotan. And Rashi says, on these words, we are going to Dotan to plan ways to kill him, because the word Dotan means planning. Rashi has the following, but according to Pshat, it is the name of the place. A verse never loses its simple meaning, says Rashi. So here Rashi says, the name of the place, Dotan, doesn't mean anything, really, Pshat. It's the name of the place. Previously said the word Kaziv, otherwise why does it tell us that must mean disappointment, means her last birth. So I asked, my question to you is, why in one place does Rashi seem to say that the name of a city has meaning beyond its name? Another place he says it has only no meaning, just its name. That's Pshat. Think of it. It's a logical question. Think of it until the next time we meet, which I'll give you an answer then.